Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivemy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of superhero television or film. And this week we are talking about the Milla Jovovich film, Ultraviolet.
Ultraviolet is what we watched.
Ultraviolet.
Ultra as in a lot.
A lot of Violet, the name of a character.
The name of the character. Mm-hmm. And if you say it a little bit wrong, it sounds like ultraviolet.
A thing this movie doesn't have.
No, it's
which
not
we'll
that
get into
violent.
that. No. We are doing
So
that.
I guess it is ultraviolet.
Yeah, not violence, just ultraviolet. A lot of that color, but not even that much.
Well, her name was Violet.
Her name was Violet. But you think then you'd probably like put a little bit more of that color into the film. But anyway. We're talking about Ultraviolet this week, and we're talking about it because we're doing a little bit of a Milla Jovovich ramp up. We're ramping our way right up to the top for the Monster Hunter movie.
That's the top?
That's question mark? We'll see.
The Milla Jovovich top?
We will see next week. I am still willing to bet the Milla Jovovich top is Resident Evil, but we will see. So next week on home release, I believe it might be available right now, depending on the region that you live in. It came out in theaters over Christmas, which is a hilarious sentence to say.
It's more hilarious because it got bumped up. Remember?
Yeah, it got bumped early. Like, it wasn't ready to come out yet, and they were like, we're just throwing it out at Christmas during this.
In the year of 2020, they were like, let's put it out early, before vaccines.
The year of no one's Lord, 2020.
We want to get it in before that hot vaccine hits.
Yeah. That's when you want to rush your movie out. So Monster Hunter came out in theaters this past December, and it is out on video on demand this week or now, depending on where you are. And we're going to be doing that next week on the podcast. Also, in a Milla Jovovich celebration, we are going to be doing The Fifth Element over on our Patreon page as one of our Patreon exclusives this month. Patreon.com/FromSuperheroes. We'll tell you more about that later.
Arguably could be the top of the Milla Mountain.
Arguably could be, but hey, we haven't watched Fifth Element.
We'll
we haven't
argue
watched
that
Monster
later.
Hunter. We've only watched Ultraviolet.
What lucky dogs we are.
We're a couple of old plates of soup right here.
Hashtag blessed.
Whoa, ding dang dog, we did it. So we're talking about that this week. But before we get into the episode, we need to thank one of our wonderful sponsors of today's episode. We absolutely love them. It is the fine folks over at Virtual Game Night.
I have so much fun when we played Virtual Game Night, which we've done twice because we liked it so much. I am non-sarcastically hashtag blessed to have played this game.
Ooh, non-sarcastically.
Not, genuinely, hashtag blessed, had a great time doing Virtual Game Night with our wonderful host, Ollie. It is basically a TV quality trivia game for you and all your family or your corporate friends who are going to be attending. And it's TV quality, but also meets pub trivia because it's very... I don't know. What's it?
Fun.
It's fun.
I'm going to succinctly just say it's fun.
I don't know why I was looking for a bigger word.
Yeah, you want it to sound smart, and you don't need to.
I don't need to. Because I'm not.
It's fun.
Even though was pretty good at trivia.
I'm just going to summarize it as fun. Right now, as we are recording this, the time of recording, our friends are currently having a Zoom hangout that we were invited to. And we did not postpone the recording of this podcast. We're we need to get it done. All right, we'll see these folks on the Zoom call next week. But if that Zoom call was a virtual game night, we would have rescheduled recording this podcast.
I would have rescheduled so many things to attend another virtual game night. I don't have a lot on my plate, but it would all get wiped out. I'd call in. I'd be like, sorry, Mom, can't talk. I gotta go to a virtual game night. It's so wonderful. It's done all over Zoom. You've got your own dedicated host who's gonna set everything up. And if you think you can do a trivia night yourself or a game night yourself, you're nowhere near virtual game night.
I'll say it again. Don't be a hero.
Don't learn a new skill just for this. Go get virtual game night. It's such a fun, high quality evening. It's
easy. You all compete with one another. If you can open a web page, you can play Virtual Game Night. It doesn't require any level of tech savviness. You don't need to be a gamer or have a gaming computer. If you've got a cell phone, a web browser, and Zoom, you're ready to play it. They can last 30, 60, or 90 minutes, so that's going to make it something for everyone, with lots of different styles and categories, which makes it really fun for everyone as well.
I really like the different categories because, I wasn't good at science, but I was good at pop culture culture and memory retention, and I was like kind of good at emoji, but a few of the emojis I was like, I don't use that emoji.
Yeah.
It's like you're gonna do good in at least some categories, which makes it really fun. Because sometimes I will go to an actual pub trivia night and I'm like, these are all hard and about politics.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm kind of screwed here. Yeah. You know what it feels like? Have you ever had moments where like you're home for the holidays and you are watching actual like cable television and you watch that back-to-back slot of Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy with your family?
Oh, of course.
And not every family's a Jeopardy family, and not every family's a Wheel of Fortune family, and some families are divided. But that 1 hour block gets a little something for everyone. This feels like that. Like it's just a sweet, warm little time space that you can take your family into.
Oh, it's real gentle and comfortable and safe, and you're just going to have a good time.
You're going to have a real good time. And if you want to turn your next virtual gathering into a virtual game night, visit virtualgamenight.live/superhero, and you can book a completely free one-on-one demo and consultation. And when you're ready to book, you can take 20% off the price of any game night package with the promo code superhero20. And so you can go ahead and join over 6,000 other players who have livened up their Zoom calls by making your next virtual event a virtual game night at virtualgamenight.live/superhero and enter promo code superhero20 to take 20% off the price of any game night package. virtualgamenight.live/superhero. And thank you, Virtual Game Night, for your support and your wonderful fun.
Thanks for the fun.
Thank you for the good
I'll
times.
think of some more words later, but fun's a good one.
Let's just keep it simple. And now let's get into the film. Let's talk about Ultraviolet. All right, so we have seen the Mila Jovovich film Ultraviolet.
It hit our eyes.
It hit us in the eyes.
The UV of the TV.
And the
hit
ears
the eyes.
and the whole color spectrum. Diana, did you like it? What a simple, pure...
Hard-hitting questions today.
I love it. Just a strong
I guess I liked it fine, but it's bad and you shouldn't watch it. And I won't watch it again, but I liked it fine. There was enough fun little things happening every now and then that this wasn't like a slog bad movie. There's bad movies that make you feel really tired when you're done. And there's bad movies that you're like, oh, it's bad, but not bad. So yeah, this is like bad, but not bad. I wouldn't see it, but I like... The action was kind of cool, some of it. I liked a lot of like the fun ideas with tech.
Yeah.
And then the story was absolutely nothing. And yeah, that's it. That's not much to say about this movie. It's gonna be it's a real Andrew, did you like Ultraviolet?
No, I did not.
Okay,
no, I did
fair.
not.
Totally understandable.
I agree with you. It's light and breezy. It's like a tight 90 minutes and chef's kiss. Thank God you're a light, breezy, short 90 minutes. I actually think I would like this movie if someone told me that like 2 college students made this for $30,000.
He's so impressive.
Like,
they got Mila Jovovich.
Exactly. Outside of what actors literally cost, if it was like a bunch of no names at the quality that it is currently at. If a couple of no names made this for like as a film school project, it would be wildly impressive. There are some really fun ideas with some really loose execution in here, but there is enough that like it's kind of fun and charming in like a low budget indie way, which this movie is not a low-budget indie film. Like, it's $30 million, which in the grand scheme of films isn't that much. That's like a mid-tier, like rom-coms get that kind of money, so it's not a huge budget for an action film, but it's enough that it should look and everything should be better than this.
I feel like that's what like low-budget action movies cost in the 2000s. Like, I feel like this is how much like Fantastic Four cost. Maybe not Fantastic Four. But
Yeah.
with something around there. Like Sky Captain.
this might be around the price of a Sky Captain.
Yeah,
and I even wrote
Sky
down
Captain looks a little better, but it's got the same soft lighting effects happening as well.
It wants to be a stylized version of something, and it's not a stylized version of anything. Like, it feels like it wants to be Resident Evil meets Sky Captain. Like, it is that, like, there is a certain energy to the world that it builds that it just doesn't work in any way.
And a little bit of Equilibrium, the director's other
Yes.
good movie. Equilibrium's a great movie. We should do that one.
Yeah, Equilibrium is a great movie, and it definitely has that, like, that tone and that dystopian future vibe and energy, but the writing is a mess. The effects are not finished for a lot of it. They look terrible because I think that they're not actually finished for a lot of it. It is not rated R, and swords just tap people in the neck and then stunt people act like they're dead, which is super silly because it's like watching unfinished footage of a movie because it's literally unfinished footage of a movie.
Yes. You were telling me from the trivia that this movie was like Sony didn't want it to be R, so they just took the blood out. Or they didn't put the blood in.
I get
Something
either
happened,
they didn't
no
put it
blood.
in or they took it out, but they didn't want it to be R, so they removed any language, nudity, violence for an action movie with swords, where there are scenes where she visibly is supposed to cut a character's head off, and she takes a prop sword and taps a man on the neck, and then that stunt actor limp bodies to the ground, and there's no blood effect or force or impact, and it doesn't have the correct sound effect.
It has the sound of a blunt blade hitting fabric.
Yeah.
To the point where I didn't understand that scene because I thought they had really good armor on and she wasn't piercing. So I was like, oh shit, what's she gonna do? The blade's not going through. And then I'm like, why are the guys dead? And they're like, oh, they're dying, but they're no blood.
Yeah,
Even though it's a sword fight.
It is the type of footage.
And they're all wearing white.
Yeah. Which is actually like a super cool stylistic choice. And it, like, the costume and wardrobes, I will say, are fairly on point and very similar to like this neo-futurism, very like Nazi-inspired dystopian future that like this director has in Equilibrium as well when it works. But it's that super crisp white, bright white, made to be painted in blood. And it never gets touched with a drop of blood. And it looks super silly and bad. And I would say, like, the only people who can look at this and not laugh, and even they might laugh, are people who've worked in film and have seen dailies that have had nothing applied to them, no sound effects, might not even have sound to begin with. You know, sometimes the stunt performer has only half of a sword because they digitally add the top half. So, like, it looks really silly when it's untreated. So watching this, it looks like watching dailies, like just raw, untreated footage of a film that if you're an actor or a director or a visual effects person, you might look at it and be like, oh yeah, we can finish that up. That's going to be great.
Yeah, the choreography is really good. They got some good ideas for pretty much every single fight has at least one really cool idea in it that made it really compelling. But yeah, nothing seems finished because they never added blood later. And they didn't add blood on the day, it seems, unless they CG'd all the blood out, which is a weird flex either way. And to go back to your... they didn't want it rated R, and so they had to take out some shots. They would still leave in shots where she clearly cuts a man in half from the penis up. Yeah. She did this at least twice. The penis up cut in half. And both times it just cut to the guy flipping, and his body wasn't severed in two. And I'm like, that's not how any of this works.
She gently taps a stunt performer in the penis with a stunt sword that makes a soft sound.
And he's like,
oh no,
dead.
You've cut me asunder.
Except you haven't.
Have not at all.
But I'm still just gonna lay here and be dead.
Woof.
Oh, absolutely woof. So it is unfortunate that Sony, it's almost unfortunate that Sony was like, no, it's going to be PG-13. You can't have your blood. So your cool fight scenes are going to look bad.
Hey, hashtag release the Wagner cut. You know, that's what I'm saying for this. Apparently the original cut was like, or what is it? Wimmer. Sorry, not Wagner. Release the Wimmer cut, because apparently the original version is 40 minutes longer, rated R, and intended to have finished CGI.
Absolutely do not release the Wilmer cut, because This movie is 90 minutes. It was supposed to be, with 40 extra minutes that Sony cut, it'd be 2 hours and 10 minutes. I didn't know that when I watched this movie, and I thought to myself, this movie could be 45 minutes.
Fully agree.
Doesn't need to be 90 minutes, I thought to myself.
Yeah.
It is so stretched out. Like, I can't imagine the 40 minutes they took out was any full scenes. I imagine it was just pauses in the scenes we still kept.
I actually feel the opposite. I feel like they kept the pauses
they
and
kept
cut
them?
all the story and dialogue. But I do agree with you. I am saying in jest, and I am not being sincere. I am jokingly saying release the Wimmer cut because I do not want that.
You can't say those things jokingly anymore because they come out.
Yeah, that is true.
We have power.
Yeah, I think
Words have power, Andrew.
I think there was another movie we talked about on this podcast, and it's not a Snyder thing, but it was one where the director was like, "Oh, if they left in the footage that I originally had, it would be good," and we could tell by what was remaining that it's like none of this would have worked ever in any circumstance.
I want to say like David Ayer with Suicide Squad. He said he had
Maybe
didn't get final edit on that.
I feel like it was not a DC one, but either way, that is the vibe I get from this. For like the director, Kurt Wimmer and Milla Jovovich both apparently have said that they want nothing to do with this movie. This is not the movie they filmed or wanted or anything. The studio ruined it by editing out a bunch of stuff and not finishing it. But I honestly think if you finish the visuals and add more story, it's still what's here. It doesn't feel like the core is good enough. It would be better, but it doesn't feel like the core is quite good enough.
Yeah, even just what they have left, I'm like, okay, very basic story with exposition not explained well. The world doesn't feel very real and lived in. It looks cool, but that doesn't last for an entire movie. And yeah, and also the characters don't feel like real people, and they're not acting well, and they don't interact in interesting ways. So nothing that is left is an intriguing movie. It's not like I'm like, oh man, the acting in that scene was incredible. I could tell there was a lot more to these two characters' interactions. Like, no, the French vampires are awful.
Yeah.
They're bad actors. The bad guy is nothing at any point ever. This child is boring as shit. Milla Jovovich is boring as hell when she speaks and really cool when she fights. There's nothing. This should have been. I'm happy with Sony. I'm usually not super supportive of a studio just being like, you're out, unless someone does something very bad. You're out, we're editing it. I'm like, I think they might have made the right choices.
Yeah, because as much as we all like to make villains out of studios and executives and the finance people, at some point you do have to cut your losses and be like, hey, this movie cost us $30 million. It is not going to be a success. The best thing we can do is make it short, get it out now. Do not spend another dime on it.
We can't let it
just see what we get.
We can't let it be our that cuts into the profits because
Yeah.
then kids can't go. We got to make it a PG, and it's got to be short.
At this point, we just got to recoup as much cost as we can.
And that's not the wrong choice.
Yeah, sometimes it's shitty, but there's a sunk cost fallacy for filmmakers and for creatives to be like, but I've started making it. I need to keep putting more time and money in it until it's perfect. And sometimes it's just like, nah, you just got to let it die.
No, in order to make this movie look good, it'll cost double the budget it was, and it will never make that much. So it's just going. Off to the studio.
I will say one positive because there are a few positives about this movie, but one positive when you bring up a moment ago, and for the most part I agree with you, all of the lines of dialogue and performances that remain are really stiff and awkward and shitty. None of it really works.
Maybe William Fincher's okay.
I was just about to say.
He's a gem.
Yeah. William Fichtner is perfect. I want to see more of his character. It feels like he was the only one who showed up and was like, I'm acting, and I'm going to act like a human being or a vampire-like human being would act in this scenario.
I will point out, he is basically the only character who doesn't do any action scenes. So, they really did just hire an actor for this character.
Right.
Which is absolutely the right choice. Because, yeah, he feels real. He feels like he actually has a relationship with Milla Jovovich. I'm very interested once he's here. I'm like, oh, thank God. French vampire's gone. Couldn't stand that guy. Mm-hmm. And now we got William Fincher here. And I did want to, like, delve more into him. I was like, I want this to be, like, your double movie. I want you to be, like, the guy on the end of the headphones while she's, like, breaking into a place or something. Because you're the highlight of this acting-wise.
Yeah, he really is, and he's the only one. He's the only one making decisions. He's the only one who physically moves while performing, which is another wild thing. Anytime Milla Jovovich or any of the characters have to say a line, they stand perfectly still, as if at a podium giving a presentation. No one moves even slightly. Then once, like, the doctor that he plays, that William Fichtner plays. I don't know if it's Fichtner or Fitchner. I actually don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Apologies to Bill.
Apologies to old Billy Fick.
I assume you go by Bill.
Yeah, but Billy Fick, William Fichtner. Once he shows up, he actually explores the space that they're in, and he's in that, like, weird negative dimension cargo space or whatever.
Which is like a TARDIS storage container or something?
Well, there's a lot of TARDIS storage containers in this thing. Like, there's a bunch of TARDISes in this movie, but he's got one, which is dumb. But he at least explores the space, and it's bland space, and it's super colorful and vibrant, but, like, every prop is too far apart and stuff, but him moving and exploring it makes it feel more lived in immediately. Like, I feel like this is a guy who actually works in this room and environment because he doesn't stand stiff-armed and deliver his lines straight to camera.
Yeah, there is a problem with this film where it feels like every single actor was told, because they're on green screen some of the time, but a lot of the time they're actually not, but they are using, like, CG props and things. It feels like every actor was told, CG's really hard, so don't move very much, or we're going to have to fix things, which is weird when they're not playing, like, CG characters or anything, and everyone just stands in perfect silhouettes, and they don't move very much. But, yeah, then old Billy Fick comes in, and he's like, I'm got movement, I'm in a character, and you know what else? And I don't know if this was his choice or not. He's the only person who wears clothes that look worn.
I did notice that as well, yeah.
Everyone else has these crisp, like, brand new pieces of clothing that are, like, sharp and cut off really tightly. There's never wrinkled. There's nothing wrong with them. And he had this, like, grungy sweater on in one scene. And I'm like, you're a scientist. You probably should have, like, a lab coat. You're doing, like, medical experiments. But it made him feel like a real person, that this was a real location. And that with this one character, there are stakes because he exists in this world.
Yeah, he's not wearing props. He's wearing clothes.
I think he wore that to set.
Yeah.
I think he got his costume and he was like, no, Billy Fick, don't wear that. That's not
Billy Fick. And the other thing that I noticed with him as well is that once he moved in the space, the camera moved. Like, the camera would actually kind of track him and pan left to right and follow him around. And I might have missed a bit because I really only started paying attention to this about halfway through the movie. But about halfway through the movie, it hit me that the camera has not moved ever. And there might be something in the beginning that I'm missing, but I was then looking out for it. The camera is on a tripod this entire movie and never turns.
Oh, not a single handheld?
Nothing. It doesn't follow any character. There is zero or almost zero camera movement. The only 2 times I noticed it move was when they did these crane shots, the overhead ones looking down at the floor as a circle would close in on her. It would kind of zoom in closer to, which they love that shot.
Which of the fights are you even talking about?
All of them with the exact same shot. They had a crane for one day and they planted it overhead looking straight down, and that would kind of zoom down at her in that scene. Other than that, I don't think the camera moves once in this entire movie.
Ooh,
that makes things pretty bland.
Yeah, it's just very visually boring. And that might be another, like, CG effects thing, because there is, like, tons of CG in this movie.
Sure.
And maybe that back in 2006, it was just way easier. If you're like, the camera doesn't move, you can just put a flat background in the back.
Right.
If nothing's moving, like a digital background. But, yeah, it's a flat, boring image. And, like, every now and then it's really cool that everything's really stiff. Like you reveal a silhouette, or like she's done fighting and she's in superhero pose, but it gets tiring after even only 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank God they cut 40 minutes out of this movie.
There's no way more time would have made it better. You never moved the camera while you filmed it.
Hashtag blessed that those 40 minutes are gone.
Hashtag don't release the Wimmer cut. Because the other thing about the camera movement, and this is the last thing that I'll say about this, the other weird thing about the camera not moving is that it doesn't seem to be a choice, other than maybe we're running low on time, we don't have a handheld camera operator or a rig for this. Because when you compare it to something like Sky Captain, which was very stylized and relatively low budget, and there's not a lot of handheld movement in that one, but it's done like a play. Like there are times in Sky Captain or movies like that where there are too many characters on camera at one time, all standing at 45-degree angles, having a conversation, like it would look on a stage play. But in this movie, everything's shot in singles. You only ever see one character at a time. And so there's
Unless you see the circle of men.
Unless you see the circle of men.
There's one
character. The one other shot in this movie.
Or a circle of men.
The one other style of shot. So when it's just one person standing still, alone, with a camera that doesn't move, there's no life to anything. It's like watching a bunch of statues act.
Yeah, that's not fun. No, yeah, I'll agree. I couldn't pinpoint why this is boring. Even like I thought it was just bad effects that made it boring. But yeah, I like knowing that it's like the lack of dynamic camera work.
Yeah.
I mean, is this dynamic camera work? There is almost too much camera work in that one scene when she fights the Asian gang. And it keeps going inside her eye line and then into other guys' eye line.
What was that?
What was that? It was like a weird stylistic choice that never came up again. But also I feel like they like looped it halfway through.
Yeah.
She could see through their eyes, and then at one point the camera went into the ear of not her, but a different guy.
No, it was her ear.
No, it wasn't.
No, it went into her ear and it came out of the barrel of a gun, remember?
No, it went into the Asian guy's ear and went out the different barrel of the gun, because I found that so confusing, because I was like, her hearing's heightened. Why'd we go in through a different guy's ear?
Thank you. I thought that was the implication of highlighting her eyes and ears, to be like she hears and sees better. But then it goes into the other people's eyes and ears.
Yeah, it goes into their eyes and it goes into like their bullets, and it doesn't make any sense. And wait, these guys were vampires.
They were vampires.
But like, it's never explained
why they should also have it.
It never explained why she's so much better.
Yeah.
She's not like a Blade who's like a half human, half vampire, like Daywalker. She should just be exactly the same as everyone else.
But she is.
Oh, she has like slightly less light tolerance.
Which is such nothing. I love how hilarious that is, that this movie tries to make her like a reverse Blade, where she's like, I'm like Blade. In the Blade movie, he was born during childbirth to a vampire, and I lost my child during childbirth to a vampire.
She's Blade's mom.
She's Blade's mom. It's just a revisionist history of Blade. So she's like, oh, I'm less sensitive to light than other vampires, which means it doesn't hurt me as much. Because previously they'd shown other vampires wearing like all black and shawls, and they have to have umbrellas in the day. Like, I don't think they burst into flames, but it clearly severely hurts them. And then about 20 minutes into the movie, they just fucking give up on that completely.
We meet quite a few vampires in this movie. Billy Fitch is a vampire. The French guys are vampires. The guys she fights on that roof in the middle of the day were all vampires, and not a single one of them like, oh no, light. Like, it's never used against a single vampire. Even that final vampire, the bad guy ends up being a vampire.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have light intolerance.
No.
So it seems to not be an issue for any vampire.
For anyone at all. And for a vampire movie, and I know that in the film, vampire is supposed to be like the derogatory word for, what do they call, like hemophages. So in this vampire movie, I've never seen a vampire movie that takes place 100% in broad daylight. There is not a single night, or I think one night scene when she teaches the kid to read.
Yeah, during the fireworks. I mean, we haven't seen Twilight.
Yeah, I don't know much about Twilight. I know they at least sparkle.
The sun doesn't hurt them, though.
I know they at least sparkle.
They do
which is more of a consistent reaction than this film has.
This film keeps acting like she's so special when no one else is hurt by light either.
Oh, Twilight has a stronger vampire lore.
You can't even do like a fun, like special chosen one properly movie.
No, there's also like 9 movies going on. We said some nice things about old Billy Fick and a few other things about this movie. In a moment, I wanna dunk on just some of the insanity of the world building and plot points of this film.
I'm gonna 3-pointer this movie so hard.
Oh.
I think that's worse than a dunk.
Really?
I get an extra point.
Okay, all right. You're gonna walk away before it even goes through, like that level of confidence. Just a full Steph Curry. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's take a quick break in the podcast to thank our second and wonderful sponsor of today's episode. It is Care Of.
It is Care Of. They're a wellness brand that makes it easy to maintain your health goals with a customized vitamin plan that helps you feel your best and supports you long term, which I really love. They have a great quiz that's going to help you figure out what vitamins you should take.
We love a good quiz here.
I love a good quiz. I love a good personalized quiz. There was so much to like about this quiz. What I liked about it so much is it wasn't just like vitamins for anything. It was like, what are your goals? Do you want fitness? Do you want mental acuity? Are you having trouble sleeping? Like, we're going to figure out what you need based on so many factors. Like, are you vegetarian? Do you eat meat? Where do you live?
Yeah.
And these were such important things. Like, we live in Canada. It's winter a lot. So they were like, you're going to need some vitamin D because you're not getting any sunlight.
Absolutely. I'm vegetarian, so it's like you need some vitamin B12. And I'm like, that's a thing that I knew. And that's the other thing. So maybe you know nothing. And then a quiz is phenomenal. And this quiz, super quick, super easy, super helpful. I have been told on multiple occasions that I need vitamin B12. Mm-hmm. And but like this is just random anecdotally advice that I've gotten from strangers. And I'm like, I don't fully trust that. But when I see it pop up on the Care Of site, I'm like, you got me. You get like, there is a level of like, you listened, you know what you're doing. I trust you. You're right. You got me. I do need that B12.
You took all my information, you put it into the algorithm, and you were like, you need some B12.
Yeah.
And I believe you.
I absolutely believe it. It's an in-depth quiz, but it also doesn't take too long. Despite being in-depth, it's only a 5-minute quiz, so it's super easy to get this kind of customized, tailored approach to your health needs relatively easy. So you can get a fresh start to the, I know it's February now, but it's never too late to start the new year, new you kind of attitude. So get in on that. You can big, small, you can make impactful changes in your life, like adding a daily vitamin to help support your energy or your sleep or your fitness or whatever goal you have going on.
Yeah, and your recommendations come in daily, individually wrapped packets, so they're perfect, they're easy to take. You just pop them, you're like, oh, this is my daily packet, and I'm done.
Oh.
Breezy.
Beautiful. Love it. So what you're going to want to do, you're going to want to head over to Care Of, and for 50% off your first Care Of order, you go to takecareof.com and enter promo code TFS50 to let them know that we sent you, and then you get a beautiful little discount. Or a beautiful big discount, I'm going to say. So for 50% off your first Care Of order, go to takecareof.com and enter promo code TFS50. And thank you, Care Of, for your support of this podcast and my body. You've done good things for my body, and I appreciate that.
Love that body.
Oh, well, thank you.
Looking great.
Thank you.
Oh.
You too.
I wasn't fishing.
And you're...
I wasn't fishing.
We're all doing great.
We're all plates of soup here.
Back to Ultraviolet.
All right, 3-pointers, Dunkins.
Let's. There's so much going.
3-point and dunk contest going on right now about Ultraviolet.
A lot going on simultaneously. They have so many sci-fi premises happening at once. It is mind-bending. Like, there is just way too much. They're like, okay, we have a war between the vampires and human. Solid sci-fi premise. Seen it a bunch of times. It works. It is also a dystopian future where there seems to be too much power through a singular dictator? ? We're a little foggy on that.
Very V for Vendetta-esque.
Yeah.
But the only thing it seemed to be like it didn't seem like regular humans were very oppressed, just the vampires.
Yeah?
But the vampires don't hurt anyone.
No.
They don't drink blood and they don't have a bloodlust.
Yeah.
So it's like, stop being mean to people who are vampires.
Yeah.
You dicks.
Yeah, it's not great.
So it's Blade and it's fucking Whatever I just said. V for Vendetta.
V for Vendetta.
It's also like Save Special Child. Very X-Men 3 because played by the same kid from X-Men 3.
Yeah. And also like a little bit like Logan, the like I'm the grumpy one who has to take care of a kid. A little bit Last of Us to be like, oh no, I have to take care of a kid who might have the... Actually, it's exactly Last of Us. It is...
with the cure,
I have to take care of a kid. So there's a lot going on there. Then there's also pocket dimensions and dimensional gateways within clothing and costumes.
Very Matrix-y. Like Matrix meets the real world.
Yeah.
Like you have to load up your gun digitally, but then you have real bullets.
Yeah.
Seems to be what's happening. And Mila Jovovich has tech that the giant companies don't have because Billy Fitch made it for her.
I know the companies or the vampires have it. It's not just Mila.
Okay.
Because that
there's
vampire,
only a couple vampires.
That vampire hit squad, which off the top I forgot that.
Oh yeah.
They're balls.
They're vampires. Those are vamps.
They're in the shape of a bowling ball, and they fall out of an airplane and wrecking ball through a building, then unfurl like Sonic the Hedgehog. And become people shape again and pull swords and shit out of their bodies because they have special dimensional gateway tech that can like wrap up bigger things within a negative space.
Yeah, there is so much happening in this movie, and the movie's not about like any of it. It's not a movie about dimensional gateway tech getting out of control or falling into the wrong hands. The bad guys don't even seem all that interested in it. They're like, we just want to kill humans with our new virus.
Yeah. They set up... the opening VO, where it's Mila's character, Violet, kind of talking through way too many plot points.
So many.
To the point that this feels like it's the third movie of a trilogy, or it's based on a pre-existing property, which it is wildly not despite its comic book opening sequence.
It makes you think it is. I don't like the lies.
Yeah.
The entire credit sequence, for those who haven't seen it, you lucky dogs, is all comic book covers of Ultraviolet covers. And I'm like, oh, wow, I've never read this. But I like that they incorporated the covers into the opening credits. It's not based on anything.
There's no pre-existing lore, but it has the loose ends of something with wildly deep pre-existing lore. Like the fact that she's like, I have to get the backpack. And the backpack looks like a toilet seat. It is a fucking toilet seat. It is a toilet seat. It's a toilet seat.
This is a huge MacGuffin for the first act of the movie. Like, the bad guys want it for about 45 minutes. It is the worst prop work I've ever seen.
It's a toilet seat.
It looks like a toilet seat. It doesn't look like a briefcase. There's no handle to hold it appropriately.
Yeah. She just has to have a tight grip on a loose toilet seat lid.
It doesn't have any weight to it. It's a real thing. It's not CG'd, but it feels like it's not there, but not in a way that is complimentary. This is an insult to the movie. I'm saying it's bad. Yeah, this is... this is the thing the first act of the movie is about. You have to work so hard on this prop. It has to be a cool, dope prop. And it's not.
It is not. And then the whole point of the first act of this movie, and this is another premise and setup that I've seen other stories do, and it works. It is, you are the transporter, don't look at the package. And then you get curious, you look at the package, and now suddenly you're wrapped up in something you don't want to be part of.
Much like the movie The Transporter.
Much like the movie The Transporter.
Who also was transporting a human.
It is a premise that works.
It works.
When you stick to that as the whole movie. So it's like, don't look in the backpack, which is a toilet seat lid. And eventually she opens the toilet seat lid, and inside, bigger than the toilet seat lid, is a dimensional gateway to another dimension that has a boy sleeping in it in a pile of water. And the movie doesn't address that is a crazy thing to see in there. Like, for her, it's crazy because she's like, I didn't think it was a boy. But we as an audience were supposed to take the leap that soldiers have dimensional armor that they can keep guns in and just like reach into a small pocket on their chest and pull out a full sword. And we as an audience were supposed to leap from that to be casual and expecting of a boy in a toilet seat.
And when we say a boy, and it is toilet seat size, that gives you a good feel for how big this is. When we say it's a boy, It's like a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah, I would say about 12. Bigger than the toilet seat.
This is what I'm getting at. He's bigger than the toilet seat. So she opens it up, and then, like, it's his head and, like, a little bit of his chest. And he's, like, baby. He's more baby-like than he is when he gets out of there. And it's weird because it makes you think, because you don't know about this dimensional stuff, you're like, oh, wow, there's a baby in there with no legs. There is a baby with a chest and no legs and maybe arms inside this case. Like, very much like BB from Death Stranding or something. He had legs, but, like, it felt like the baby had to live in the case.
Right.
Like, he can't leave this case. And then it just cut 10 minutes later to, he's out of the case.
Yeah,
He's
walking around.
Walking around. He doesn't need the liquid, doesn't need the goo. He's got legs. He's just a normal kid. Didn't need to be in a case.
Didn't need to be in the case. The kid doesn't like talking for a bit and then likes talking. And the kid also... Oh, go ahead.
I have to point out my favorite line of the movie, which is the first time we see the kid. Mila Jovovich has given, like, a hologram of the kid to the bad guys. And then the kid is suddenly in the hall, and she takes his hand, and she says, don't overthink it. And they start running. And I feel like they should have that attitude more in the movie.
That should have been in the trailers.
Don't
overthink it.
Very Austin Powers, don't try to figure out the time travel kind of line. I'm
a little bit.
Yeah, he was in the case. He wasn't in the case. He's small, but he's big.
Just don't overthink it.
Don't overthink. All right. We have to do a podcast about it, so we're gonna.
But this kid. So now for those of you who haven't watched it, and I hope to God you're trying to keep up, she is a vampire. The vampires are at war with the humans. She is also a transporter, but she's also someone who had to break in at the beginning. This is an illegal transport. She stole a thing.
She's a fake transporter.
She's a fake transporter pretending to be the transporter, and then got the thing and is now transporting it back to the vampire. Shouldn't look in. It's a toilet seat lid. There's a child inside. She takes the child out. Now she's wrapped up in that. The child is also a clone, which we find out later, a clone of the bad human, who the vampires think the clone is the cure to vampirism. But then they think that the clone's blood kills vampires and doesn't cure them. But then it turns out that the clone, the original person it's a clone of, says that the clone actually carries the disease to wipe out humans. So the human boy who is not a vampire is the cure for vampires, then the destruction of vampires, then a human, then a person who's the carrier of the disease to kill humans, despite being human himself.
He is human himself, yes.
And then he's not.
And he's also
then he
the
becomes
clone.
a vampire.
He's the clone of a guy who is a vampire.
And he's also going to die in 8 hours.
He's going to die in 8 hours. And he's 6 of 8?
And he's 6 of 8. Never comes up.
7.
Never
see those other 7. And I don't mind not seeing 7, like all the other 7s.
Yeah.
But what happened to 7 and 8?
What happened to 7?
If you're 6 of 8,
yeah.
you shouldn't be the successful one.
Yeah.
8 of 8 is the success.
Yeah. 6 of 6.
6 of 6.
If he's 6 of 6.
I'd be like, he did it. The other ones sucked.
Simple.
You rule.
I was reading one thing online that apparently the director in an interview said that the original plot is that 6 is actually Mila Jovovich Violet, but from the future and is de-aging. So 6 is 6 because VI from Violet is 6 in Roman numerals, and 6 is Violet from the future sent back, and Violet at the end of the movie gets the cure for vampirism and then starts de-aging and becomes the boy, and then the boy is sent back, so it's herself. Because this movie didn't have enough sci-fi plot lines.
Oh man, maybe I do want those 40 minutes back. What? No, absolutely not. Only acceptable twist that they didn't include, which is shocking, is that was actually her kid. Because she was pregnant and lost the baby while she
and that had nothing to do with anything.
They just wanted to establish she was maternal, I guess. Most people don't want to see children die. I don't think you have to set up that this person had a kid.
Oh my God. Vampire versus humans, transporter, reluctant maternal figure versus the cure/disease/cure/disease/cloning operation. A tale as old as time.
Tale as old as time. My favorite thing about this opening part. Now, this is a huge, the ministry is the bad guys, and it seems to be like the entire government. Like, this isn't some small company or whatever. He's got 700 men in one building of soldiers. He's a huge, giant company. They make this bomb that's supposed to kill all of humanity. And to deliver the bomb, they, like, call FedEx. Like, they outsource the delivery of their bomb.
Their bomb.
When we know they have at least 700 men.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm going to hire an outside and not to, like, frame them that I can tell or, like, set anything up. Just like, no, we just like to outsource delivery of bombs.
Just a transport company.
That's just dumb as shit. They have cars. There's no reason to.
They also have 7 other bombs.
There's no reason to hire someone you don't know to deliver your most valuable item when it's not like part of your plan. When it's not like a Joker-esque, like, the whole plan was that you steal the bomb. It's so dumb. Couldn't believe it. Just your FedEx guy shows up late. He's gonna kick that package around. Mm-hmm. It's gonna get stolen off the step.
And it's just a boy in a dimensional backpack. Mm-hmm. Why didn't you just set it off? Where was it going as well? There's no reason for it to be sent anywhere in this film.
I guess I feel like what was, if I may posit what I think was supposed to happen.
Please.
When he blew up, he was like, if you inhaled the atomized bits of him, you were going to die.
Well, that's what they thought initially when they thought he was a bomb to destroy the vampires.
I assumed it was the same for humans.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Because he was going to blow up.
Okay.
So I think he was going to be sent to somewhere else in the city, maybe with more people that they wanted to kill. Because you don't want to have the bomb that kills humans at your house when you're full of humans.
I guess.
Because then they wanted people to come to them for the cure, and they'd have to come every single day for more doses.
Yeah.
And that would keep people under their thumb.
And they did also have a cure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad plan, honestly, to keep people under your thumb, creating a disease that only you have the cure for, and you need a daily dose.
That is also a solid sci-fi premise, aside from the war on Like, it is...
It's nothing to do with vampires.
Every single thing is a solid, and I will not critique it individually. These are all solid sci-fi premises. Like, Violet's story is Joel from Last of Us, and that fucking slaps. I love that story. Why is she a vampire? There's no reason.
There's no reason for her to be a vampire. And it honestly feels like she's, like, late. Like, she showed up and she's like, I'm here for the movie about vampires versus humans. And basically the main villain tells her, we've pretty much wiped out vampires. I'm taking on humans. And she's like, oh, that's awkward. I thought this was like an Underworld-esque humans versus vampires movie. He's like, no, I don't give a shit about vampires. I'm done. We've hunted basically all of you, and you're over. And that kind of just goes away.
Yeah. Yeah, and also a weird movie to watch in the current climate because he's like, we basically stopped the spread of vampirism through wearing masks and basic sanitary precautions.
Okay, this was weird because this is the first
because
movie.
Vampires don't actually try to bite you in this universe.
No, you can get it through tears and blood and and maybe
bodily fluids.
But yeah, it's very weird watching a movie today where everyone is wearing masks to, like, not get a disease, but also still, like, doing what we do. Like, they're all going to the mall, and they're going to work, and they're taking public transit, even though there is this deadly virus in the air at all times. And you're just like, too real! Oh, God. We've learned nothing.
But also, this dude is like, people wear masks now. Vampirism couldn't come back. And I'm like, oh, you are an idiot. Like, it's gonna have a second wave.
He reopened too soon.
You fucking dum-dum.
You gotta wipe it out completely, then we reopen.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's a great point. God damn it. And like the only weird thing was I was surprised people had like cloth masks. I was like, I expected more medical masks, but that's cool that it's like the same as us. But yeah, it was weird to watch and be like, oh, masks but no social distancing, huh?
Yeah.
Except for that one train car that was empty.
Yeah, that also made no sense.
Made no sense because the other train car was full.
Here's another thing that made no sense.
Oh, dunk it.
Young Violet Young Mila Jovovich.
Wait, you can't just say young. How young was she?
I'm going to say approximately the same fucking age. The same fucking age. Oh, yeah. Also, vampires die super quick.
They live like 12 years, they said.
Yeah, well, they're not immortal. So no more than 12 years ago, an adult woman, Mila Jovovich, a pregnant, married woman. Violet. It played for some reason by a different actress.
Young Violet is... but I don't even believe Mila Jovovich is 12 years old. Like, I don't think she's been aging.
No.
So, like, young Violet is a woman who is pregnant and married and not played by Mila Jovovich.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense. It's like, and Mila's not the kind of actress who, like, wouldn't be there that day. Like, when she does a movie, she does the movie.
Well, and it's also visibly an entire plot line that's been deleted from this movie.
Yeah, like, they condensed the shit out of it for the opening monologue. But yeah, that was obviously, I think, a lot of the 40 minutes.
Yeah, like, I think her husband was actually an actor I kind of recognized and, like, had lines where his mouth moved and no sound came out and it was just narration from Mila. So clearly, like, there's a whole section of deleted stuff there. But yeah, just played by a different actress who looks exactly the same age.
And no plot line about, like, I changed my face so I could escape the government.
She does say that, and in the VO, she says changing into a hemo goblin or whatever. Hemophage. She's like, when you change to a hemophage, you undergo physical changes. You start to look different.
Did she say that?
She says that. And it's that stiff and weird. But why?
Why? Because the physical changes, she went through them. She's like, sensitivity to light. You're stronger. Your senses are enhanced. But you get pointy teeth even though you don't drink blood, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But why would you just look slightly facially different? Because she does change her look willingly all the time, which is actually one of my favorite things of the movie is this color-changing hair and color-changing clothes she has. I think they're really cool, and I think the effect is actually done pretty well.
Yeah,
so she
I think it is...
changes her look constantly, but not of her face.
Yeah, I think that does look cool, and it does bother me that of all the sci-fi bullshit this movie has, no one else has this, and they never explain that it's her, like, special hair or clothing or that part of her DNA. This is just something where the movie's just like, fuck it, we don't know, we're not explaining it to you. Like, really? We've gone through there's 8 different clones with 42 different fucking blood types, but you can't tell me that she has a magical jacket or some shit?
I mean, that's pretty... If you're not going to explain the weird swords, I can understand a changing jacket.
Oh, there is a hierarchy of what you explain. Baby in a toilet. And then, like, you keep going down. And eventually, I hope you get to magical changing jackets, clothes, and hair. I hope you get there. But yes, there is more important shit up there.
Now, I will say, there are a couple of, like, little tech things that to be positive for a moment, to pause the dunk.
Paper phone?
Paper phone was dope.
Loved that.
Paper phone was so cool. She needed a burner phone, and she went to a machine, and she ordered a phone, and a little piece of paper came out, and she folded it in this weird way that I genuinely felt was a phone.
Yeah.
Like, that was an incredible effect. Why did the baby toilet case look so bad if you could do such a good job on this, like, one-scene phone?
Well, because that was just a piece of paper, but it was a cool sci-fi premise. It didn't take any CGI, or it was just like, what if a piece of paper was a phone?
And it automatically, and when you folded it in a very easy way, it looked like a phone. And it was so neat.
Super believable, really cool. Yeah, I'm with you.
Felt like a real, actual future piece of tech.
Absolutely.
I absolutely adored that. What else did I like? There was other stuff. I like the holograms.
Yeah, I didn't mind the holograms. A little too much of it, but I did not mind the holograms one bit. I didn't mind the concept, not necessarily in the like zoom into the belt buckle showing a micro universe execution, but the like anti-grav belt buckle.
Anti-grav belt buckle was cool. They it felt like they were implying she had like a black hole in there.
I think that was it. Yeah.
Everything. Because she did anti-grav and then she did something else that was crazy.
The motorcycle would like ride along the side of the building.
Yeah, and no one else could do that.
Yeah.
The cars had to just kind of go across the ground.
And I would say the one other thing that I really, really liked from this movie, which was on-fire sword fight.
This was a brilliant idea for a fight scene. And this was one of the only things from just a writing standpoint they executed so well. They established he shot her with a flamethrower gun. The flame didn't go off, so her sword got covered in lighter fluid.
Which we will say they loosely established you didn't need a little help, and reasonably so. This isn't me dunking on you, but reasonably so catching up on that.
But once you explained it, I got it, and I understood why they thought that would be kind of clear. I just didn't know how fire guns worked.
Well, that's the thing. It takes an understanding of flamethrowers because they foolishly don't establish. They have no establishing shot of him actually using and shooting a flamethrower. So it's a gun that has like a little tiny lighter at the end of it. And then she puts it out with her blood and he squirts her with a bunch of goo. Mm-hmm. And it looks like, if you don't watch super intently to notice a near transparent flame, it looks like he just shoots her with a goo gun.
Yes, but when you when you realize that was a flamethrower and you just shot lighter fluid at her sword, and then it's like 5 minutes until it gets completely dark and she has to create light. So it's not like instantly like, oh, lighter fluid, then light immediately. Like they had a nice break where you forgot her sword got lighter fluid on it. And so it was pitch black and she needed to make light. So she just scraped her sword across the ground to spark it up and then had a flaming sword for a plot relevant reason, which was dope as hell.
Yeah.
That is a really cool idea for a fight.
Yeah.
And it almost is, I'm almost upset it was in this bad movie.
Yeah, that was, I would say, the only point in this movie where it felt like I was watching Equilibrium.
Yes.
The director's previous movie, which, by the way, is on our list to do someday on the podcast, and for the moment is a recommend from me if you're listening to this and want like a fun movie to watch. Equilibrium is it, but there's a scene in Equilibrium where the room is completely dark and the scene is entirely lit by the muzzle flashes of the guns.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one.
And it feels like that type of clever action choreography, dance with lighting, that's actually a brilliant scene and really well done and set up, and fucking kudos to this film. I love that scene.
That scene was really good. Really, it wasn't a whole scene, but the other really fun thing they did was the scene with French Vampire. He tried to spit at her.
Oh, yeah.
That was incredible.
And she blocks it, just catches it with her hand, and then just slaps him with his own spit.
She slapped him with a spit hand, and it was his spit. It was, I mean, that's a literal slap in the face, and I adored it.
There's nothing particularly, like, special effecty or cool about it, but it's just such a dope moment for a character to catch spit and slap someone with their own spit.
As a woman, felt very empowering, and I don't want to be spit on, but if I ever am, I pray I can catch it in my hand.
If you had the peace of mind, if you had the like wherewithal to catch it.
Now that I know that there is a counter to being spit upon.
Yeah.
Because I could never think of a counter before. Like you could dodge it, but it always seems like you have to just take out a napkin and wipe it away staunchly, like stoically. But catching it and then slapping someone with their own spit?
It does depend on the consistency of the person's spit.
It could be a wide spray.
Yeah, it could be, we've all had a spit in our lives where you spit and you think it's just going to be like one little bit and it shower heads for some reason. I don't think there's any stopping the shower head.
Well, now at least I think if I were to be spit upon, perhaps I could spit in my own hand and then slap someone.
Oh, you've always had that option, baby.
I didn't think of it though. I like having these options.
Gotcha.
And then one thing I do want to talk about that bothers me about this movie, to get to the dunks. To return to dunks.
Okay, to return. I'm like, have we not gotten to dunks yet?
We took a pause. We took a halftime break. We got a drink. We had some commercials. But to return to the dunks, one thing I can't stand that so many movies do that have female leads is I can't stand when a movie has a female lead. They're like, it's a female-led action movie. Therefore, we don't need any other women. There is not a she fights over 700 people. They established that in this movie. They're like, there's 700 men in this building. There's also more people in other scenes that she kills. Not a single other woman in this entire film. Except the other actress who plays Mila Jovovich.
Yeah. And the messenger she replaces to steal the messenger. Yeah.
Because she had to be a female. So that's the only other woman. So she fights 700 men, which I like kind of in general. I'm like, yeah, kill men. Sure. But it's like, I feel like a lot of movies do this. Rogue One was very bad for this.
Right.
Felicity Huffman was the lead with 6 dudes. And I'm like, come on, guys. Just because a woman's the lead doesn't mean you don't have to write other women in your film.
I fully agree with that because I think there is a way to do that. You're right, because it's an evil corporatized government, we'll say. They don't really get into the details, but like clearly things are wrong in this future outside of just vampirism. And there is a way to portray that to be like, it is a bunch of white dudes. Like that is a problem. And Resident Evil is a film series that stars Mila Jovovich that we've discussed on this podcast that does a really good job of that. And there's a lot of post-apocalyptic media that does a really good job of that, where it's a lot of corporate greed and white male gross corporate culture that is just focused on wealth and the acclamation of power destroys the lives of women and BIPOC people, and you have a diverse cast of freedom fighters fighting this type of like corporate greed personality. And Resident Evil does a really good job of that. To be like, it is women and typically minorities who have to fight back against that.
Yeah, her allies in Resident Evil are always women or people of color. And in this, she only has 2 allies. Well, I mean, French vampire turns on her, and then Billy Fitch, and it's both white guys.
Yeah.
So you're not feeling that vibe of like the underground is the oppressed people.
Yeah.
And that they're not succeeding and they can't thrive. It's like, oh, you're the only woman in this society. Yeah, the only other time they introduce women is when she needs to hide. Because also at the mall, they had like a purple-haired lady.
Right.
So that she could pretend she was her. So women are just there to be like props and distractions. And it's so... The worst part is when like they have like over and over again, they do the circle fights. I don't know if we talked about how there's like 4 different circle fights.
Which is a fine premise and a concept this director does really well, and does it really well in Equilibrium of being like, what do you do when you're surrounded or in a narrow hallway? Like this level of confinement, which I think is an interesting modifier for a fight scene.
Yeah.
Once or twice.
There's about 4 circle fights in this movie. It's too many. And just seeing that many dudes just standing next to each other, and I'm like, can a woman get paid? Can you pay a lady other than Mila Jovovich? I would love that. And I think we've gotten a little past that now in the year 2021, but it's still just disappointing to see it.
Yeah.
It seemed to be a thing whenever a lady's a lead.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think like Matrix is another film series where it's a lot of other than Neo, which does feel like it should be a women or BIPOC, but it is a diverse group of oppressed freedom fighters suffering from a terrible world that's been created by corporate greed.
Yeah, because the other white guy, Cypher, like turns on them.
Exactly.
Yeah, so like it's a good these are the oppressed people.
Yeah.
By Agent Smith.
Smith.
I've been seeing The Matrix for a while.
Smith don't help.
Smith, no, but like he's a white guy.
Yeah, fair enough. He's
the same white guy over and over again.
I thought you were trying to think of like the primary oppressor, and I'm like, that's a complicated issue. But
no, I was thinking about how when he fights like a bunch of Agent Smiths, it feels like these same fights that Mila Jovovich is having. Just the same. Yeah. Just take one dude and you copy him over and over. You make a big circle.
Just a bunch of burly brawls, one after the other.
You get a pole, you spin around.
You spin around it.
That's it.
Oh, well, I'm feeling pretty good on Ultraviolet. How you feeling?
I mean, I'm glad it's over.
Yeah, that's true.
Not the podcast so much as the movie.
Yeah, breezy 90 minutes.
Well, thank you, Sony.
Thank you. Well, let's go in for the close where we ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything we discussed, what would you change about this movie if you could change anything? But before we do go in for the final question, we want to thank our third and final sponsor of today's episode. You know them, you love them. It is tpublic.com.
tpublic.com. Mm-hmm. They're on my body.
Yes.
And I love it.
Yes.
They make shirts.
Uh-huh.
They make tank tops.
Uh-huh.
They make masks.
One more thing.
hoodies.
Perfect.
And I've got all of them.
Oh.
Every single one. You guys can't get any more. I bought all the things.
That is
No,
100% inaccurate. They do still sell more things. Diana didn't buy all of them. And the proof of that is if you head over to tpublic.fromsuperheroes.com, where you can find many great designs, which are all created and submitted by independent artists who are getting a commission for their work. So you get cool independent artwork while submitting a cool independent artist.
Guys, I did lie. I just wanted to feel special and the only one with TeePublic shirts.
You're still special.
I'm still special? Yes. Excellent. Yeah, there's like a shirt I'm loving this week. I chose a Blade shirt because we're doing vampires, kind of.
Yeah.
Blade-like. And it's it's like the Batman 66 logo, but it says Blade and it's got Blade's little head on it. And I think it's cute. Every week it's a mashup with me.
It's a fun mashup with you. This week, mine is actually not a mashup. It's a straightforward, I think I've mentioned this once before, but I really like it, the Jackie Daytona Human Bartender. It is Matt Berry's character from What We Do in the Shadows. Which, by the way, y'all, it is phenomenal. Get into What We Do in the Shadows. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's a great show.
It is. Rare sci-fi show that we watched and didn't review.
Yeah.
Kind of just kept it for us.
We just kind of enjoyed it. And, like, for a dark show, like, a weirdly kind of, like, fun energy about it as well. Yeah, like...
Yeah. If you like What We Do in the Shadows, you're going to love that shirt.
If you like
so
Matt
fun.
Berry and anything Matt Berry has been in, Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, The Mighty Boosh, or any of the great comedy he's done, you're going to love that show. And this shirt, Jackie Daytona, Human Bartender, Bats. But that's the great shirt that I'm... Just the way he... Bats! That's what I'm liking this week. And if you like either of the designs we just mentioned, you can find them on our storefront, which is over at tpublic.fromsuperheroes.com. That's TEE public.fromsuperheroes.com. When you shop through that store link, you not only support the artist who designed the logo, designed whatever you pick up, but you also support this podcast as well. tpublic.fromsuperheroes.com. And thank you, TeePublic, for your support.
Thank you so much, TeePublic, for all the stuff.
And as well, to support this podcast, you can do it for free by simply rate, review, and subscribing on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your fine podcasts. More podcatchers now are giving you the option to actually review. Not a lot of them previously did not.
They didn't seem to care about reviews.
Yeah.
We care about reviews.
But we care. So more and more places now you can leave a review. Do it. It helps us move up the charts. It recommends us to new listeners. It is one of the best ways that new people find out about us because we don't have an advertising budget here on the show. We don't advertise this show. So word of mouth, ratings, reviews. If you share this show on your Twitter, Facebook, or whatever social media you use, that helps us as well. Those are free ways to support the podcast that only take a minute or two.
It's free, and you'll be nice, and you'll be a plate of soup, and we'll love you very much. We'll read it.
You'll be a chef's kiss.
We'll read it. You'll feel the chef's kiss.
I was reading some earlier today. It felt nice.
It is nice.
Wanted a little hit of endorphins. Endorphins? Yeah, endorphins is what I was. And yeah, it felt real good. And as well, if you want to get cool bonuses from us, then that's when you're going to want to check out our Patreon page. We're talking about more Mila Jovovich this month on our Patreon exclusive episode where we're going to be talking about the fifth element. That will be available shortly.
You guys do not want to miss us talk about the fifth element. And you do not want to miss all the special bonuses on patreon.com. And also, we don't mention this enough. When you become a $10 patron, you get all the episodes. We've talked about that. You also get a nickname from me.
Oh, fun nicknames from Diana.
People seem to really like them.
Every hero level patron gets a nickname.
I'm going to compliment myself. I'm crushing these.
Yeah, they're perfectly chosen nicknames.
I work very hard.
Carefully curated is how I describe them. So head on over to, I could describe all the levels, all the tiers, all the bonuses, but I'll save you the trouble and just say head on over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That's patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. Once you hit that page, you'll see all of the options. You can sign up monthly. You can sign up yearly. There's also no obligations. You can cancel or change at any time. And this month's bonus episode is going to be on the fifth element, so check it out, patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question. Diana, Ultraviolet, what would you change?
Perfect movie.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. No.
Andrew committed to a bit.
For a moment, I was like, what if I did just get up and walk away from the switchboard at this point? Like, what if I was just like, fuck it. That's it. That's it.
We got to cut 40 minutes out of this podcast.
Hey, we had to do it. Sony called.
No, my actual change is I would make this kid likable. Because, like, there's too much to change. Like, there's so much wrong with this movie that you can't just pick one thing. Like, you can't be like, remove vampires or remove weird tech, or there's too many little things going on that are wrong. So if I'm just going to make this movie likable, a lot of it's about this kid. This kid is so boring. This kid is nothing. There's no relationship between Milla Jovovich and this kid. He's only special because he is a young child. They never have a laugh. They never have a moment of specialness.
Yeah.
They never have any kind of bonding thing happening. This is not a Joel Ellie situation. This is a bland woman and a bland child being blandly oatmeal-y together. And I just need a little, I need you guys to laugh about something. I need you guys to care. The kid doesn't even talk for, half the movie. And not like an endearing, 11 in Stranger Things way. Just in, a way that I was like, I think he doesn't have thoughts. I think he's just a shell. I think he's a husk and a bomb. So I was very surprised when he even could speak. This kid's too boring, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. There's too much other stuff to change. It's sometimes it's fun. So yeah, if I liked this kid, I'd be so much more engaged. So yeah, make the kid likable.
Interesting.
Andrew, what would you change?
I love your idea of making the kid likable. It occurred to me while you were saying that this kid is playing the same character that Milla Jovovich plays in Fifth Element.
Oh my God!
This is the same premise as Fifth Element as well.
What about a little reversey-roo?
Yeah. What if we unfreeze? What if we unfreeze an idiot and just wander their ass around and they're the weapon?
But she's fun in that movie.
But there are fun moments with her in that movie. Yeah. So I agree with you. Make the kid fun, and he would become like a non-sexualized version of Milla Jovovich in the Fifth Element.
Just born yesterday, not born sexy.
Exactly. Exactly. It would be only slightly different. I would like, honestly, for this to be more about a straightforward reason for the kid to exist. I don't think the kid needs to be the clone with 4 false flag misleads. There's no reason for the kid to be a clone. There's no reason for the kid to be B, someone who the vampires think will kill the vampires, C, someone that Violet thinks will kill the humans, D, the explosive device that the humans are going to use to kill the humans.
And a cure for vampirism as well.
And D, the cure for vampirism / the cure for the disease. There's no reason for all of this shit.
Absolutely not. I can't believe they fit 4 false flags in a 90-minute movie.
It's just a kid, and this kid's immune to vampirism. It is as straightforward as that. And this guy doesn't want the cure to get, the corporate guy doesn't want the cure to get out there, because he even says, he's like, as vampirism is fading out, I have less of a reason to control the masses. So maybe vampirism isn't phasing out, and he doesn't want it to, because it gives him a lot of political and corporate control over the world. Simple. It is a kid who has the cure. The corporation doesn't want it to get out, because even though the corporation's going to war is their business.
War is their business, and
Done.
Also these vampires aren't very dangerous, so they're always winning.
Yeah.
The vampires aren't killing anybody.
No.
Yeah, I think that's oh yes, please, straightforward.
It's just a kid.
It's just a kid with a good personality.
Yeah.
My change. And he cures vampirism. Your change.
And I'm going to put this out there, not in a toilet backpack.
I don't know.
Just hear me out.
Huh.
What if it's a normal size cargo container, like what in Firefly, the river?
Oh yeah, River's inside.
River is inside of a normal human sized cargo container. Mm-hmm. There's no reason for it to be a backpack.
No, there's no reason, because it just means you can put anything in anything.
Yeah. So not a toilet container.
She could have just been in a car.
Yeah.
Could have just been a car
Not
chase
a toilet.
Scene.
Not a toilet. Yeah.
All right, fine. It was kind of interesting.
Fuck it. We keep the toilet container.
We kept it.
We did it.
We did it.
All right, y'all. We are going to be
Ultraviolet.
We are going to be back next week on the main episode of the podcast talking about Monster Hunter, the other Milla Jovovich flick. You can also check us out on the Patreon talking about Fifth Element soon. But next week, we'll be back talking about Monster Hunter. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can reach me on Twitter at Ivimey, Ivimey.
You can reach me at Words of Diana.
And you can reach both of us at From Superheroes. This time, we're done for real. Bye.